Hi guys, today we're making the chocolate version of my tres leches cake. This is the tres leches cake for all you chocolate lovers. It's a moist and delicious chocolate cake soaked in chocolate milk and topped with chocolate whipped cream. It's creamy and chocolatey and decadent, and it's the perfect chocolate cake for summer. Now, before we start making the sponge cake base for this tres leches cake, we do need to melt the chocolate and butter together, which we're going to add to the cake. It's important you do this now, that way it has time to cool before you add it to your eggs. I like to use the microwave for this. It's easy, it's fast. Just make sure you give it a stir every 30 seconds so the chocolate doesn't burn. Set this to the side to cool, and in the meantime, we're going to whip up the egg whites with half a teaspoon of lemon juice. You can use cream of tartar if you prefer. Make sure you're using a clean glass or metal bowl so the egg whites whip up properly. And when the eggs start to become foamy, you can start adding the sugar 1 tablespoon at a time. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe and click that bell. I post new videos every week. You'll know your meringue is ready once it reaches stiff peaks and it becomes glossy. Set this to the side, and in this other bowl, I have some cocoa powder, which we're going to bloom with some hot milk, which will dissolve the cocoa and intensify the chocolate flavor of this delicious cake. Give this a good stir, and to bring down the temperature of this mixture before adding the eggs, we're going to add the melted chocolate and butter, which should have cooled by now. Now, in case you're wondering why my previous tres leches cake doesn't call for butter and this one does, it's because cocoa powder tends to absorb lots of moisture, lots of liquid, so this cake really does need that extra fat. I've mixed in the egg yolks, and this is already looking so delicious. You're going to add your dry ingredients. Careful, don't overmix. As soon as these are incorporated, you're ready to fold in the egg whites. Add 3 big dollops of your meringue to this cake batter to loosen and lighten this mixture. And once those are mixed in, you can fold in the rest of your meringue. This batter may seem quite loose compared to other sponge cakes, and that's completely normal because of the additional chocolate and additional fat. You're going to transfer this cake batter into a pan, buttered, floured, and lined with parchment paper. A round cake pan works just as fine, and you're going to bake this cake in a preheated oven at 160 degrees Celsius or 320 Fahrenheit for around 25 minutes. Do the toothpick test. If it comes out clean, the cake is ready. You're going to let this cake cool for 5 minutes in its pan and then turn it over onto a rack and let it cool completely. Okay, so because this is a chocolate tres leches cake, it only makes sense to soak this cake in chocolate milk. So in my measuring cup, I have some cocoa powder and chocolate, and to this we're going to add some hot milk, which again will bloom the cocoa powder but also melt the chocolate. Give these a good mix, and once everything has dissolved, you can add your other milks. Instead of evaporated milk, I do like to use heavy cream as it gives this cake more richness and flavor, and sweetened condensed milk as usual. Give these a good stir, and your chocolate milk bath is ready for you to enjoy. No, I'm joking. Okay, so put the cake back in its pan and poke lots of holes into the cake using a fork or a toothpick, and you're going to pour your milk bath all over the cake. If you've never made tres leches cake, this may seem like a lot of liquid, but the cake needs it. That's the beauty of this cake. You're going to let this cake sit for at least an hour in the fridge, and then, depending on your texture preference, you can either serve this cake in its pan with the excess milk or transfer it onto a serving plate like I do. This is completely up to you. In the same measuring cup that we used for our milk bath, we're going to make the chocolate whipped cream. You'll need some chocolate and cream. Add only half of the cream, and you're going to microwave this, stirring every 30 seconds until the chocolate dissolves. Add the sugar and the remaining cream, which will again lower the temperature of your mixture, and you're going to pop this in the fridge because because whipped cream only whips if it's extremely cold. Now, if you want a shortcut, you can use just cocoa powder and cream and whip this up immediately. However, since your cake is already resting in the fridge for at least an hour, I suggest you use real chocolate because it's more delicious and it has better texture. Whip your cream to medium peaks and we're ready to cover the cake entirely in this delicious whipped cream. The cream, as it sits in the fridge, it will develop almost a soft mousse-like texture, which is amazing. I like to keep things pretty simple and just smooth the top with my bench scraper. However, if you want to add some chocolate curls or a dusting of cocoa powder, that would be lovely and delicious. Now, because I'm not serving this cake in its pan, I do like to trim the sides, and this is optional. Now, let's talk about this cake. The longer you leave it to sit, the better it will become, kind of like tiramisu. You'll give a chance to the chocolate milk not only to soak into the cake, but also to develop its flavor even more and become one with the cake. It's going to be one of the best chocolate cakes, guys, you'll ever have. I promise you, I said it. So drop everything you're doing and go make this cake. I know there's a few extra steps, but they're all simple and definitely worth it. Here you can get a really good look at the texture of this cake. You can see that chocolate milk just coming right through the cake. It's so moist and creamy. Definitely a chocolate cake you need to try.